You're listening to the GC Collaborative Podcast, a resource for the worship arts team at Grace Church.
Welcome to this edition of the GC Collaborative Podcast. So good to have you listening to us. I'd say it's so good to see you, but I can't see you. But you get to hear us. We're happy you're here. My name is Ben, and with me, I'm the co-host, and with me is the one, the only, everybody's friend.
And everybody's enemy, maybe?
All at the same time.
It's a tension.
Luke Lauber. Yes. Hey, man, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
It's a beautiful day outside.
Yeah, it is pretty. I will tell you this. It's been an awesome month because we are at the tail end of celebrating 25 years of Grace Church, which is awesome. Not a lot of churches can get to the point of getting past 3 years. And
what all's happened? What all? I don't know. So much.
I know. It's just been awesome. And I have to say also that we had a fantastic, awesome experience with our kicking this season off with that worship night. So I'm so grateful for all the people that put that together, made that happen, and then just all the people that came. It was so awesome just having every campus there to worship together. It was sweet.
Yeah, that was an awesome night. A lot of people came together to make that happen. It was wonderful.
Phenomenal. Beyond my expectations.
Yeah.
So today we have a great podcast that I'm anxious for everybody to hear because we have a couple of guests.
Yes.
You want to tell the people who they were?
Absolutely. We had two guests. Ben could not make it this time, unfortunately.
Sadly.
So we did miss out on that wisdom. The bizdom, as I like to call it. Instead of wisdom. But we had Cory Ryan, who's been a worship leader around here for years. Just a great guy. Part of Vessel Worship right now. Just a great guy. Every time we have conversations with him, we walk away just being like, man, we just love that guy. He's just got a huge heart for ministry, people, building the church, building worship in the church. And so just a very honest, true-hearted fella that we just love to death. And the other guy was Chad Carmichael, one of our very own. Once again, another great guy, lots of wisdom. He plays drums at South. That's probably how most people would know him, but he does a whole lot behind the scenes as well, in just wisdom and just, a huge voice in the South OP worship as well. So we were grateful to have both of them on, and we got to talk about a hard subject, I think, to some level to really live out, and that is how do you get better in excellence, but also, glorify the Lord. What does that look like? We just got to talk about it. Didn't have, there was no, this is the exact way, but just got to hear different takes on it and hearts and how we can grow together as a body, as a church, as a community.
Awesome. Looking forward to hearing it. Enjoy.
Welcome, everybody, to this month's GC Collaborative Podcast. We are so excited. Just like every month, I'm continually surprised by the guests that we get and how amazing it is. And just like every month, we just want this to be a conversation of continually growing and learning. And we've got nothing figured out, but we're always learning along the way. And so I am so excited. As you heard in the introduction, we have Cory with us. We have Chad with us. We may have been with us at some point. So if you hear a door open and close, that has been coming in as well. But welcome, guys. Thanks so much for being here and being a part of the podcast.
Thanks for having us, Luke.
Yeah. I'm stoked to have you guys here. Thanks for taking time out of your day. As you guys know, we just want to have a roundtable discussion or round office discussion, as the format we're in right now, of just what does it look like to get better in worship? Get better as a musician, get better as a worship leader. It can be kind of a confusing topic because, as Americans, I'll put specifically, we're kind of taught like you become the best, you become as perfect as possible, and you do the best you can at a job or whatever it might be. And then you get into the church world, and it's like, well, it's for the Lord, so does he expect perfection? Like, what is, it can be kind of confusing, right? If we're really honest, and I'll say that's me. I'm not going to project it on you guys, but that's me, where, you have these tendencies, and even as a human being, you have these tendencies of, I want to show off. I want people to recognize how good I am at things. I want to be recognized because of that. I want to be the best person in the room. Like, you have all these things going on in your head, and then you're just like, but I need to be humble.
Oh, by the way,
Humility. And then you put being on a stage in today's worship context, and being amplified, and the pressures of that. And so it's all these things, I think. And then so how do we grow? How do we get better? How do we get better at the drums, at worship leading, at guitar, but still have this godly heart, mindset, and seeking after the Lord?
Sure.
Yeah. And we got 30 minutes, so good luck. No,
there we go. Yeah.
Just
well,
kidding.
I think what you're describing is the fact that society and our churches have modeled a certain level of excellence, or defined a plumb line of what excellence looks like. We're now able to get on YouTube and see what Bethel Music is doing right now, and so in that we see a band that's probably been together for a long time. Probably there's even a budget to pay those guys to play, or at least there's a community that I know of folks that have traveled there just to be in the band. So even if they're not getting paid, they're getting a crew of folks that want to do this with their life. And so then we hold that up as though it's a mirror that we're looking into, and size ourselves up to that expectation. We've gotten to a spot where we can auto-tune vocals on the fly, and that we can quantize drums to a point at which folks don't even have to sing in tune, and it'll come out perfect pitch, and if you miss a couple drum beats, we'll just quantize that, and then we'll put it behind the video, and then we'll put the video out, and it looks like it was done just on Sunday morning. And so that's become our new expectation as to what a healthy Sunday morning should look like, I think, in the heads of the worship leaders. Would I be correct in that? You guys feel that?
Yeah, I can see. I feel that as like a volunteer that, that it's like sometimes it's like an unspoken expectation that we may all feel, or not in a bad way even, but it's just like, here's a song we're going to do. You're going to introduce a new song. Well, how are you going to listen to it? You're going to listen to the original artist, the recording. And we have so many resources at our disposal that the natural feeling is to imitate that exactly. You want to imitate the sound, the tone of the guitar. You want to imitate literally the people's response in the room. Like, you're striving for everything just based upon what you're seeing, because that's full exposure. You get everything. And it's not the greatest, but it is kind of the greatest. I mean, it's good and bad.
Absolutely. In fact, case in point, how many of you guys have done How He Loves, or have had a female sing How He Loves? Yeah. You remember How He Loves?
Yep.
Uh-huh. How many of those females did the Kim Walker laugh? Yeah, I had so many students that went through that would.
Oh, that's great.
And and you realize that it's the same thing that we do with drums or guitar lines or whatever. We want to get those little nuances. Yeah. But you really see it when there's a singer that he is jealous for me. and then your youth group and the girl goes, great. He is jealous for me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I think it can be also counterproductive though, because it gives a musician a false sense of progressing with their instrument. If all you're doing is imitating someone else, they do it really well because they came out of a place of authentic creation. Like, they created this sound, they created this song, they were a part of a team that put this together, and you can get a false sense of security by imitating that to where it may not follow through when you're then given an opportunity to be your own, or make the song your own, or have change it for your congregation, or change it for the team that you're playing on, week to week even.
Yeah.
What you're describing is almost like a one step further than just pre-recording it anyway.
Right.
I mean, if all we're doing is emulating what's already been done,
right?
How much of a sidestep is it to just say, why don't you just emulate it over here, and then we'll play the track of you playing it on Sunday,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that does go to how to hit excellence. I think so the idea is that what we're talking about is how to get better, right? Mm-hmm. And so, excuse me. And so in getting better, we need to find the plumb line or the standard of what actually is better. Mm-hmm. Is it musical proficiency? Is it the Holy Spirit's interaction with the room? Is it our involvement with the Holy Spirit's interaction with the room? Right. Is it volunteer deploying volunteers, raising up volunteers? Is it congregational interaction? Mm-hmm. There's a tons of stuff that I think as a worship leader we step up on stage and we are weighing all of those things. Yeah. And oftentimes you get a resource and you have to put it in one of those buckets. Yeah. An example would be like you could pay a guitarist, or you have 3 students that are in class and 2 of them are proficient, but you got to walk them through a little bit. Their tone isn't as great. Mm-hmm. I mean, then you got this ringer that you could bring in. You could make it sound better, but then your volunteer recruitment goes down. Even maybe congregational participation. If you look at a lot of Baptist churches, they still raise choirs, and these people love choirs. Why is that? It's because if you have 300 people in your choir, then there's 300 families in the congregation that are bought into the church that feel like I was needed today. That's our drummers. Our drummers are needed today. If our drummer doesn't show up, we're in trouble. Yeah. But you can do it on a whole nother level when you get a choir involved.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah. And I think everybody looks at things differently, which I love. I think the thing that I've always just viewed like a church band as, and for whatever reason, I just always picture this image of like in the old days, a town like has a big town party, right? Like I'm talking like it's like the Old West in my mind. I don't know why, but it's like the Old West. There's a town of a couple hundred people. They say we want to have like a town celebration. Well, we want a band. Well, you don't poll, the guys from the town over. You say, we got so-and-so who can play the banjo. We got so-and-so who can play guitar. So-and-so kind of plays the drums. They're not the greatest, but he plays the drums, and then you work around the skill level of everybody involved in that band. And so for me, like church, it's the same thing. It's, well, what do you have? Like, what has the Lord given you in your community? And then how do you use that to the best of your ability, So that's the oversimplified version of it.
Yeah. Do you pick set lists then based on who will be on for that week?
Yes and no. I think ultimately it starts with, okay, God, is there anything like you're specifically wanting to do, wanting to say? And then to some, I think second after that, I would say I look at kind of what's being talked about. If there's anything, thematically that I feel like needs to line up. And then thirdly, I would say, kind of looking at, okay, who's the players? And it's not even skill level sometimes. Sometimes it's just style. Like you have different style players, which or singers even. You have a different, where it's like, I could give this person this song to sing, but that's might actually make them look pretty silly. But if I gave them a song to sing that's like in their wheel, like, to the gifting and ability that God's given them, they could actually really take this song and make it come alive. So I think there's a couple different tensions even in that I kind of try to think through. But then even with the, Western town scenario, now you are introducing, which I don't think it's good or bad. I think like everything, we've got to figure out, okay, how to use this in a way that helps the church grow in Christ. So then you enter the track situation where now we have tracks, and so you can buy the tracks and have them under the band, which then can limit making the song your own to some level, because it's like, well, I might have this awesome guitar part, but there's a track with a keys part that's just going to clash with, you know what I mean? So you get into that level of stuff. But I think that's where it's like, okay, like even in my own personal walk in the last couple of months, I think for stability purposes, leaned more towards tracks for a bit, especially with like COVID and stuff. It was like, okay, let's just keep it
practice.
Yeah, let's keep it stable. But then the last couple of months, I've kind of been like back at this place of like, man, these tracks are just really restricting, you know? So I don't think they're all bad. I don't think they're all good. I mean, I guess it's like anything, like as a guitar player, it's like, if you use your effects as just like a crutch so you can be worse and not as good of a guitar player, then probably get rid of some pedals. But if it's like, no, like it's enhancing what you're doing and you're getting better at it because of those things, then, you know, go for it.
Yeah. Well, then what do you do with your town church? Like in your metaphor of an older western town, I picture the plains of Colorado in my mind. Just for example,
Eastern Colorado.
Eastern Colorado, yes. But you know, you're using the resources that you have. Like at our church, you use resources. You have the musicians, the quality, even the talent that God has already provided you with. That is going to, as you grow the church, as you grow the ministry, attract other families from the neighboring towns to grow your community. And in that, you're going to get additional rings of people that want to be involved, people that do play the guitar, people that can play a different instrument that is outside of this core group that you started it with. Perhaps, I mean, eventually they're going to be better than everybody that you started with.
Yeah.
And so, like, how do you as a worship leader navigate that without, while you want to continue using these things, but, you know, and you almost have to look at a place from mentorship and discipleship, because you want the people that have been doing it for longer, but maybe the newer guys are better at it. I mean, at some point, someone's going to come along and always be better than whoever's doing it right now, no matter what it is. And that's bigger than the church. But like, how do you navigate that? And
I've actually found the opposite side of things, that we as worship leaders tend to use the same guys because we know that they know the stuff, and so it takes us outside of our comfort zone to find the next guy. If we got a drummer that's really reliable, that wants to be there every week, I have to tell myself I need to still find another drummer. And yes, in fact, the other drummer probably won't be as good as the guy that we've been playing with for 3 years, but there will be a day where that drummer won't be there for vacation or whatever, like, or just might find another spot. And so that's one of the things that I thought was really cool about me. My career started working with students, and so you look at it, and every year all the seniors graduate and leave. So you have to start from scratch. You have to see a community that's somewhat transient, and yet still has buy-in, and that to me does kind of, as we have this conversation about what it means to get better. I think we really do need to find what's the standard, like what is getting better, because those things are different. If you use tracks, it will sound amazing right now. You will have folks that walk off that are really proud to do it. You won't have guys that have a culture of writing music, right? Because you just took that away. You might not even have guys that can play solos within 3 or 4 years, because what we've done. Have you ever been to a gym where they have the pull-up bar that you put your knees on and gives you counterweight? You know, it's like that's what we've done with tracks. We've created a situation where
that
it's like,
is an amazing visual.
Yeah, come on in. Let me just I'm not doing the pull-up for you. I'm just adding 70 pounds. I'm taking 70 pounds off your own body weight,
right? That's awesome.
So that you can succeed.
Right.
And really, in that scenario though, we could succeed with a bunch of guys standing up there acting like they're playing their instruments, and singers actually singing. And so, and then now we can also auto-tune that. So I even rewind a little bit more in this conversation and go, have you guys ever gone through a season? I realized that I had a crew that was so tight and so good, and really in the effort of serving the congregation, we realized we really can't introduce that many new songs very often, because that's what's in the best interest of the people that we're here to serve. But the musicians have gotten so good that they know all those songs so well that we could go through seasons of not practicing at all. They're really good. We didn't need to practice. We had even gotten that chemistry because a lot of the folks, in a given church, there's a few different services. There's opportunities to serve within a given week, and so we would see a lot of the same folks more than a couple times a month. And I realized that there was a point where I only had to text folks if there was a new song, because I knew nobody would look at it at the set list until Thursday night or Saturday night, depending on whatever. And I realized this is actually where we can go to Scripture and go, like I felt accountable to that, even as their leader, where King David, like we've been given this gift of being musicians, that we're pretty good at it because we've given years and years and hours. We can actually get through a whole season without practicing. And let's be honest, worship music tends to be the same 4 chords. Yeah. So let me just move the capo and we'll play that one. And so we didn't have to practice. And I felt like God was keeping me up at night, reminding me about King David. And there was a point with King David that he felt God telling him, you need to make a donation. You need to go find a sacrifice. I think it was buy a farm, create an altar, like just give this as a sacrifice to me. And he went and found the place, and the owner was like, "You're the king. You can just take it. It's yours because you own everything anyway." And he said, "No, I want to give you fair market value." And he said, "Again, you're the king. What are you talking about? Just take it." And he goes, "I won't give God something I didn't work for." And so as we talk about getting better, I think that we can, with a good heart, look at our musicians and go, guys, this is us giving something that we worked for. If in the moment of execution it all falls apart, that's okay, because that's not the end-all be-all goal. But if we have more to give, then maybe we should give it, just because it's our sacrifice. Because our sacrifice is our worship. Yeah. Our practice is our worship, all these things. Yeah. So as we go to tracks, we've kind of taken away the need to practice. Yeah. Inadvertently, we took away the sacrifice because we have because we have the ability to come out looking like we hit it right on the head. Right. And so in this season of my life, I'm getting a chance to work with a lot of different churches. And I'm realizing that a lot of churches have gone to a culture of, we just show up Sunday morning, we're good. We don't practice on Thursdays anymore. That's not our thing. Man, for me, that's where community was built. That's where you would plug in one of those guitarists that was off on the wings going, I've always wanted to play. And you go, well, come to practice. Let's see how you do. And then maybe come to a couple more. And as soon as you start knowing these parts, then let's work you in. Yeah. But we don't need to anymore because we just meet on Sundays now because we got tracks. Yeah. we got tracks. Hey, it's going to be great. Yeah. I already know because I heard it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. No, that's good.
That is really good. I do like your question though of like defining what is improving or what is getting better, or like even to personal development of someone. Like you want to be in tune with the heart of the worship leader. You're hoping that the worship leader is in tune with the heart of the church, that they're keeping, their finger on the pulse, that we're all striving for whatever that is. And I think churches can go through different phases based upon where the church is at in their church health, in the body of that church and what it looks like logistically, to where maybe now the season is the focus of just getting more volunteers involved. Maybe we have a large pool and now we're striving for a little bit more of an excellence type of, that's our goal. Like we want to just do better because we know we can do better. Like we want to, God gives us these gifts and talents. We want to give him our all. And there's some personal responsibility in there too for everyone to give God your all. Like when I give my wife a gift, I don't want to give her something that I know I could have done better. Yeah. I'm trying to give my wife a gift that she knows it was intentional. I spent time thinking about it. I spent time, just celebrating her through that. Mm-hmm. And God wants that. God wants to be glorified through the gifts that he gives us. Mm-hmm. But it's also it's a fine line of like talent and heart of maybe this is all I can, and it's not going to meet this professional quality of what someone else might say is success, or someone else might define as improving. So
I think it's the thing I keep thinking about is it's the whole idea of you can see, and I remember even being in high school getting like DVDs of Hillsong, and you see these arenas full of people, going 100 miles, 100% worshiping the Lord, and then you see the bands and how good they are, and being like, oh, I need to be like that, and now you fast forward 20 years with social media, all that stuff, and not that it's all bad by any means, but I think it can be even harder, especially for kids coming up these days, to be like, oh, that's the standard I need to be at or compared to. And I think that can make it even harder in the idea of, because then it gets into comparison. It's not only excellence, it's comparison. And if you've been in the world and the artistic world at all, I believe comparison is death to the soul.
Sure.
Sure. And so then it becomes, and now with the track stuff and everything, once again, I don't necessarily think they're all horrible by any means, but it can be a detrimental. I still can't get the pull-up thing out of my head. That's so funny. I'm going to laugh about that later. If I was a journal writer, I'd write it in my journal tonight.
Well, we'll see what happens in 3 years if anybody can play a guitar solo.
If anybody can do a pull-up.
Turn it back up.
If anybody can do a pull-up, we'll find out. But yeah, it's just like, it's just such a, I think it's interesting because we've not really had the exposure of so much available to us as a human. So like even when I was in high school, it was like, yeah, you had to like buy DVDs to see it, but like not a lot of people knew what a conference looked like, and what a room, auditorium full of people, hands raised, looked like. Like that wasn't a standard in your head. You just knew what your church did, maybe the church down the street. To where now it's like you're flooded with all these things, and as a worship leader, then you have people coming to your church that can unknowingly, I think, put that expectation on you sometimes, and then you unknowingly put that expectation on your band, and then it just kind of trickles down, which I think, to your point earlier, is like it is what is the mark we're trying to hit. And what does that look like? Because I think unknowingly we just want to have, in the most like simple way to put it, I think you can get into the place of, we want an amazing set where everybody in the room has their hands raised and is going 100%, and that's what we want, and I walk away feeling fulfilled, as a musician or a worshiper.
Yeah, I did a good job.
Yeah, exactly.
They got to experience God, and I got to experience them experiencing God.
Slow clap.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lord.
And I don't think anybody gets into any of this for that reason, right? Even as a volunteer, like you get into it because you do want to give your best to the Lord. You do want to just, I remember being as a kid, you just were like, man, I just want to worship and I want to figure out how to play this instrument to show people who Jesus is.
Yeah. We do, but if we're honest with ourselves, like, and we all know, just because you're either a volunteer or you've recruited a lot of volunteers, you can watch bridges being burned by opportunities being taken away. So I say this to go, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just cut you off. I'm so sorry.
You actually made me feel good because my thought was out and I realized it was like in the middle of a sentence and I was like, oh, thank God.
It's perfect. and yeah, I think that we want to be like, man, I just want to give God all of this. I want to learn my instrument. I want to be the best in my instrument so that I can give that to God. But I don't want to give it to God in my room alone. Right. I want to give it to God on a stage in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And we watch that. We go, oh yeah, no, I'm here just to serve. I'm just here to serve. But then when the lights go out, like, well, how many people just stay and worship? Mm-hmm. In fact, at the best part of my ministry, like life, there was that part where we were feeling like God wanted more out of our worship, that as songs would get cut from a given Sunday, how do I honor the place that I work, yet I feel like God wants more. Mm-hmm. And I realized that was just me limiting where I thought that needed to go. You know what? I'm here to serve the church in serving their congregation on Sunday morning. So that's to whatever the church wants and needs. And if they want to cut everything, that's theirs. That being said, Thursday night we had practice. And so if we want to end practice early and just worship for an hour, or end practice on time and still stay for another hour until like the security system gets turned on, we would do that. We would worship till like 10 at night, and it was amazing to watch what was happening in the room and in the community and in the hearts of the musicians, because they were learning how to just go. There was no tracks. In fact, half the time there wasn't even a song. We'd start by playing, a song that's easy, 4 chords, something like "Came to My Rescue" or whatever. Yeah. That dates how long ago this probably was, but but we just play that, and then when the song would be done, we just keep on those 4 chords, and then all of a sudden somebody would start praying, and then we'd start singing a different melody over it with this new subject matter. And then folks would find their way into that practice space. I remember it was happening enough that I had conversations with one of the guitarists that ended up taking over a band, just saying, go ahead and you keep playing with the band. And I would jump off stage and just start praying with folks that would find their way in. Folks that were alcoholics that were just ready to be done. We used to go to a restaurant behind the church afterwards, and I had a waitress come up to our table and go, I know who you guys are. And I thought, oh yeah, it's because we're from the church right back here. Like, yeah, did you come visit the church? And she goes, I don't know what church that is. What? And I'm like, okay, well then I'm out. Like, this is kind of freaky now. And it turns out that she was having a really bad day weeks earlier on a Thursday night, on a practice night, and she just wanted to go somewhere that she might spend some time with God, and she felt God say, pull into this parking lot, and it was a big church, so there was 3 buildings at the time, and we were at the smallest of all 3 because it was a stage that we could manage without a sound guy. And so we're at this place, and she had been sneaking in, going up to the balcony and just laying down and worshiping for weeks. Like, this is the stuff that I feel like is the Holy Spirit response to giving, like tithing your time, tithing your practices, just being in that moment. And so as we're talking about what it means to make things better. It's so crazy because we go, okay, well, is that adding lights to the situation? Well, lights is another opportunity to serve God. Because I turn out the lights, does God move? No. Right. God moves because you pray. Like if you really want to lead worship, you should probably pray more than you practice. Like that's the honest truth. But I think there is a response to dedication, to submission, to tithing. Like I talk about tithing all the time because it is our time, it's our gifts, it's all this stuff. And as we pour it out, I sense a response, and so I say that to go, lights is another opportunity to where it's like, I don't know, that's just one more thing you can give God. Like you can put time towards it. Is it manipulation? Could be, but I mean, almost everything is. If you get to the innate heart, as we sit down and write a song, we're going, what do we want the congregation to feel that they're not feeling right now? That it's the same thing as going. If I'm looking at the lights, what do I want the congregation to feel that they're not feeling right now? We can leave the lights on all the time. That's great. Even if you go to the museum, there's something called portrait lighting, so that your attention gets drawn to the place that you need it drawn to. It's one more thing that you can give God and go, God, we'll give you that too. We'll give you lights. If you want them on all the time, awesome. But if we're trying to get the attention of a congregant so that attention goes to you, then use it.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent lighting is somebody's act of service.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
It got quiet.
It's not my act of service. Don't look at me like that.
No, I'm just processing. It's good.
Looked at me like I'm a failed lighting operator.
Chad, are you listening to this right now? Are you gonna run lights differently now, buddy?
All I heard is I need to pray more and I'll be a better lighting operator.
Oh my gosh! I'm just kidding. But I think that we were kind of talking about this earlier too. Of I think the getting better part of it and the excellence part. I think you're talking a lot about it. Is even just in the community aspect of music and. Getting together and just to be honest, like that's where sometimes I feel like I get into is if I'm playing, it's to rehearse for something. And it's not, I actually was jamming for the first time in probably second time, but I hadn't jammed for like a couple of years just to jam. Like I realized I just had not picked up a guitar apart from a rehearsal or piano or anything apart from I have a reason for this, like a service that I'm rehearsing with the band for or whatever. And it was kind of embarrassing because I was like, I went and I just was like, for some reason I can't even do this anymore. Like if there's not like this map laid out, like I have no, for myself at the time it was like I have no original thought. Like this is not good.
You were 2 years away from not being able to do a guitar solo anymore. I'm not going to say why.
I probably had about 100 pounds lifting me up.
Go ahead, do your own pull-ups.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it was it was crazy. But anyways, I think it is just giving space for those things to just be able to, because music, as you guys know, is very communal. It's working off of each other. It's like a conversation, with instruments. And so I think there is a level of, for sure, like if you're not having to think about how to have a conversation, like if you just sit in your basement all the time and not communicating with anybody, then the point that you do, it's like you got to figure out how to do that again, And so I think even in the idea of excellence and getting better, it's not always just relying. Like I find myself too sometimes now, or I did back in the day, but like I remember it's like a progression. It was like I never played with a click track, and then learning how to do that and staying on the click. and then learning how to be told where to go by a track sometimes was I hated it. I was very upset. It just felt like a bossy mother just telling you to like go clean this, go clean that. But then one time, just got better at that, and then all of a sudden took the guide away, and then I was like, where do we go? Where do we?
Yeah, no.
Is this the instrumental right here? Is this the verse? What am I doing?
Atrophy, Well, you need to get creative.
So,
what?
Yeah. So I think, but it's a double end because it's like, okay, I think tracks can assist in a good way, for sure. But then it is that balance of like, I think it's important. We keep talking about the younger generation, but I think it's important conversation for them is, I remember thinking like in that moment for me, if all these young guys and girls coming up are used to is tracks and somebody telling them where to go, they're not going to have any idea how to operate without these things, which is a disservice to them,
And they'll see that stuff as a failure.
Yeah.
Like it's not just that, but I think of my kids, when they're learning how to walk, they kind of grab, like you stand over them and you put your hands down and they kind of grab onto your hands and take some of that weight. And because of that, you're not worried they're going to fall. But the moment that you're not there, they do. Just like what you're talking about with the guide vocal being gone, being like, I don't remember how the song goes.
Yeah.
We as leaders, when I was working with the youth, that was my main thing, and they didn't realize I was doing it. Like, so as I'd raise up leaders, I'd have to tell them, this is what I'm doing. I had things called the false start. Like, if any of these people are listening to the podcast right now, they'll laugh because I talk about the false start all the time. I used to take it on my own integrity as though I screwed up so that the team would succeed. And I did this a lot, and it is funny because folks that didn't know it would be like, man, that Cory, he's out to lunch every once in a while. But the truth is that like the singers wouldn't know when to come in. And so if I just came up and I went, oh yeah, you were singing this, then they knew how, like that was it.
Yeah.
Like if the verse is coming up and I go 1, 2, sorry, I just sang over you. But really what I was doing was letting you know this is where we start singing. And letting the band know this is where it is. Because half the time we're all on avions, and so you kind of go, I don't need that. I don't need that. And it's not until somebody else is leading a song that you're like, I got no idea where we are right now. That was the one thing with all those guys. I'd be like, just make sure my vocal's in there, So I think as leaders, we used to do the guide vocal. We just did it as a false start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's true.
But yeah. No, it's a cool time to where there's a whole new level of cleanliness to stuff. And if we can get to a spot where we're okay screwing up, we're okay being dirty. You can't screw up if you've got tracks, really, because you're going to do that thing.
Train's moving.
Yeah, and so I think we need to come up with other opportunities. Maybe it isn't Sunday anymore. Maybe Sunday is at a standard where that's the thing, especially with COVID hitting and us all doing online services. That's what it's being weighed against is other folks that are doing that. And so unfortunately, you don't feel the energy in the room. You don't feel the guy that's crying in the corner that you're going, man, life is changing. You're singing to a camera. And so really in that setting, is the tracks the right answer? And like the bummer is it is at the expense of pouring into the guy that doesn't know how to play that well or is learning how to walk. And because that's the standard, if they screw up and it ends up on tape, they're like, oh, dude, I never want to do this again. And they need to have that safe space to fall and go. Like every guitarist goes through this, right? Are you a guitarist?
I know chords.
Oh yeah,
I play drums.
Drums. Well, I think drums are the same, but I see this with guitarists all the time. So actually, bass players as well. So when they first start, they learn how to play just the root
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then if it's a big part of the song, then they play it faster.
Yeah.
Do. And then they get better and they can move around, and so they do. And they move around so much, it's now distracting.
Yep.
It's like, oh, I solo, but I solo always. It's a bass solo always.
Yeah.
And then they learn how to play with somebody. Like, then they learn that actually the bass solo, if I get a compliment, it's kind of like wearing a Loud t-shirt. Are people really saying, hey, I really like that shirt because they like the shirt, or because the shirt made a statement?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have this fluorescent shirt that is awful. And every time I wear it, people, oh man, I love your shirt. And I'm thinking, no you do not. You just can't ignore the shirt. And I think it's the same way with playing music. A lot of times in phase 2, we play so much that you can't ignore it. So you're like, you played a lot. Good job. And maybe that's a better compliment is, hey, I noticed you played a lot.
Yeah, right.
More accurate anyways.
Absolutely.
Yeah, more accurate. And then they get tasteful and they so I look at that and go, man, that to me, like, as we're talking about raising people up and all this other stuff, one of the things that occurred to me is when you do play with guys that you've played together a lot, and you're playing stuff that you're familiar with, and you're just hitting a home run, you can relax in a whole nother way. When you're raising people up, the musical excellence isn't there, but you are building community. But correct me if I'm the only one, when you're in the moment on Sunday morning, you're also going, okay, is this drummer going to get, buddy. You're not relaxed to where you're even worshiping.
Yeah.
And I think that that's okay, because we're paid to carry the weight so that the other folks don't have to.
Yeah.
So that the volunteers don't have to. So that the volunteers can have fun. And if the volunteer's stressed, my goal is that I can say, hey, I believe in you and I'm putting you up here. If you screw up, you don't have to worry about that. It's me.
Yeah.
Because I put you up here.
Oh yeah.
And I want you here. So I'll do this all day.
Yeah.
But is it excellent? That's the question of what is excellent.
What is
right?
excellence? What defines excellence?
All things aside, if I was just worshiping like tomorrow and there's a bunch of folks there, who wouldn't want to play with a bunch of guys that they've played with all their life,
right.
and then play for a congregation of folks at a conference, or a room full of pastors, or a room full of worship leaders that are all standing there with their arms open and going, I know every word to every song, and this is the moment that feeds me, I remember, and I bet you've had these moments too, where we would lead worship, and I felt like, wow, we just nailed it. Like I could just feel like it was awesome. And I remember, like, nobody would sing, and what's that all about? And then I'd go through days where it was like my mind was in 6 different places. I was worried about whether the drummer was going to make it, and the congregation is on fire, but I don't even get a chance to recognize it, because all I'm thinking is, oh my gosh, I'm going to kill somebody. Like, don't kill somebody. It's Sunday, and I'm pretty sure that's one of the rules.
Wait until tomorrow.
That's one of the rules.
I'm sure. Like my head, and I realized that maybe this is one of the things that God gives me. Like, this is that thorn that I want to be taken away, but it actually is there for my own good, in the sense that I never get to experience their worship.
Yeah.
I never get to walk away and go, I helped do that. I never get that pride of that, because if I'm doing it for the right reasons, it was all for the congregation, it was all for the band.
Yeah.
And if I just worship him, if I give it to them, I don't get to know whether or not it was good or not.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think the excellence side of things, it's at least where I'm at in life, I feel like excellence kind of, or like it's just really being obedient, I think. Because I think even just the whole seasons thing that Chad, you said earlier, I think different seasons call for different things. And so I think there are seasons of, you know what, we've got to raise some people up, and it's a season of that. And there's just going to be mistakes, and we've just got to deal with that. I think actually what I have learned in the last 5 years is, I'll put this on myself, but I would challenge other artists as well, artistic-minded people, is actually communicating what you're doing to leadership, to people. And I'm still guilty of this. I'm sure Chad can tell many stories of me doing this, but where I'll make moves thinking people see like the good outcome that will come out of it, and then I get frustrated when people get mad about the move. But in reality, it's because I didn't help them see or communicate, whether it's leadership in the church. Because I guarantee you, at least in my situation, it's, you know, if I was to communicate to my bosses, hey, just so you know, music on the weekends might take a little bit of a dive, just a little, but it's because we're raising some people up. Then they'd say, oh, okay, like I know to expect that. But if I just think that in my head, start raising people up, music takes a significant dive, and then they get upset because it's like, why is music sucking so bad? You know, they wouldn't say that, but we've noticed that music isn't, you know, worship, you know, and then I get offended as the worship leader, you know, because it's like, wow, we're, you know, then it creates this tension and frustration. When in reality, if I just would have communicated my thoughts and what I feel like the Lord's doing, and giving opportunity for them to say, yeah, I don't know if that's like, maybe rethink that, you know, then it causes a lot less frustration and turmoil in between people and volunteers at that level, at that point as well. And so, but I think there's just different seasons, and there are seasons where it's like, you know what, we have great musicians, let's really work on getting really tight and saying, okay, let's open up space to say, maybe the Lord wants to move in a different direction during the service. We have the people that are capable of doing that. So let's open up that space. And then that might be for a season. And then might be, you know, and so I think as I get older, I don't know. I think to some people I'm old, to some people I'm still young. So like to 18-year-olds, they're probably like, gosh, this guy's so old. But it's like, you know, it's just that obedience of like, God, what are you... I think I'm trying to get better at that. Like, not that one thing. I think I used to think like one way was always the right way, but I feel like now I get to the point where it's like, even in quote unquote like excellence, it's just saying, God, what are you wanting to do with this community right now? What do you want to do with this person in the ministry? Like, what's your heart for them? Is it they're actually giving all they can and they're giving all they got, and for me to say you need to be a better musician is actually going to like burn them out, then I don't want to say that, you know. But if it's a young dad, has 4 young kids at home, he just needs an outlet to play and is giving his all and is mediocre, you know, quote unquote, in the world's eyes as a musician, but man, like he just worships and that's like where he connects. Then, you know, for me to hopefully have the ability to hear from the Lord to say like, he's good right now, like just let him be. But this person over here could get better, or this person over here, like challenge them to spend more time with me, you know, throughout the week, because they're actually an amazing musician, but they don't ever talk to me, you know, to me, and I want, you know, so it's like those things where I'm trying to get better at, like, you know, I think as a young guy, I was like, I just want the best band in the city, you know, I want people to come hear us and be blown away. It's more of just, okay, God, how do I lead the people that are in this ministry well, and honestly too, care about them more than I care about the ministry, you know,
and which
is a hard lesson.
But that's when it becomes a ministry. Like what you're describing right now is the difference between music and ministry. It's seeing people as individuals rather than it is what you experience on Sunday is a collective, but it's a collective of individuals. And so what you're talking about is meeting each person where they are, and Jesus modeled that for us, you know.
Yeah, he did all right, I guess.
it's and when you have a support team like tech and all that realize what your plumb line is, and that's where you're talking about communication. I did a poor job of this sometimes with tech, to where like somebody would show up at practice and they were not on the list to be there. I'd have like a second or third acoustic guitar player, and they're like, why do you even have a second? I don't use any of this stuff. And I'm thinking, yeah, but it's because I met them, and they need this more than we need this. Like, and so I'm making our tech guys crazy, and they're thinking the whole time, this guy has no idea. Like, he's behind the 8 ball. He's doing all this stuff at the last minute. And the truth is no, I did it, and then I did it again because I felt the Spirit move, and I wanted to plug this guy in. And then I felt to move again, and and all of these little last minute things are because I'm trying to be obedient, but I'm also realizing I'm making it really hard on the other folks. It's kind of like when you were saying, if I spend some time telling everybody that music's going to take a dive, but I'm plugging a bunch of new people in, that's helpful. I think in my last situation, I didn't have the conversations early enough going, guys, this is the only reason I do what I do. I'm doing this for these people, for the congregation, but for these people. And if anything is at the detriment of these people, like you said, man, sometimes we have people up there that can't sing a note, but they're still adding so much because of what they bring as far as a worshipful spirit. I think there was a point with our band where I put a mic in front of everybody, and it was driving the sound guys crazy. I was like, don't even turn on the mics. Don't even turn them on. I don't even, like I told the musicians that it's not good.
Yeah.
I've told them that their mic is not on. And I'm telling them that so that they have the confidence to sing loudly into a dead mic. Because I feel like I was looking out at the congregation going, I feel like we got a bunch of people that are connecting with us like a boy band. The reason that they put a boy band together the way that they do is so that different people connect with one of those 5 guys, right? And I connect with this one. And on a Sunday morning, everybody's going to connect with the person that they feel like the most. Yeah. And so when the bass player's up there and going, whatever, man, I'm just holding down the bass. Then if it's 9 a.m., I feel like the bass player right now. I don't want. But if everybody looks like they're singing at the top of their lungs, I can see a difference in the congregation to feel like I can go there. Yeah. And then I'm the guy that's jumping around. Well, I don't feel like jumping a lot of times, but I feel like if I jump, then if you feel the desire or want to raise your hands and you're like, I don't know, can we do that here? Well, if the guy on stage is jumping around, then heck, I'll put my hands out if that's what I feel like doing. Yeah. Like I go a little past what is comfortable so that you as a congregant feel safe to be in your comfort zone. That doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about today.
That's all right. I just realized that
I went off subject. So week 2,
it was a good topic. So that's really good. But yeah, I mean, I think, Chad, you got any thoughts, my friend?
No,
I'm trying to process everything. Honestly.
Yeah, I am too. I'm sitting here just so much good information. There's just so much opportunities for additional conversations in a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Something I keep coming back to in my mind is what you were talking about earlier, how you were frustrated with only being put in a box on a Sunday morning. So you found another avenue to be expressive of what your team's heart was for that worship, and that was an overflowing of a rehearsal or a shutting rehearsal down earlier and then staying to worship later, and that, like, God bless that specifically for you, that you were able to see where how God was able to use that outside of just for what you thought you were needing it for. And I thought it was interesting. We've been having conversations along those lines recently, Luke and I, about that kind of in that same vein of, what else can we do, because we feel like we want to do more as worship leaders, as musicians, as artists, without being frustrated that we can't do more in our perceived time slot of the week. You look at time that we're given as a whole for in just a week's time frame. What are other avenues we can take upon ourselves in small groups, in just relationships, hanging out? Where does that go? Like, how can we I don't know, like, I don't want to say like scratch the itch, but it's like,
but you have that burden or desire, in the heart to do something.
And it is God's desire that he puts in our hearts. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's not at that point, like you were saying earlier, the lights are off. We're not looking for more time in front of people. We're not looking for an opportunity or a venue for people to come to hear what we want them to hear. It's just like, I have this desire to do things with like-minded artists and people that I feel like are going through life with me right now. And it consumes my thoughts sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's another, like, for me, the idea of excellence is I think a lot of times for me, and this once again is probably oversimplifying it, but if you are people who truly, like, for me, music, a lot of it is like just breathing. It's like, I have to do it. If I don't, I mean, I don't have to, but I love to do it. Mm-hmm. If I don't do it, then I feel like, oh man, like, and once again, not even in front of people. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just like, if I don't lead in quote unquote in front of people for a long time, I find myself pulling the guitar down at home, and like having to just get it out,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think even in the idea of like excellence and getting better is really, if you trust that the Lord has made people to just do this kind of like breathing, then they're going to want to get better. They're going to want to figure out. And I actually think if most people aren't desiring to grow, maybe get better is the wrong word, but grow, then it's actually probably because they're tired, they're worn out, or there's some kind of like health,
Mm-hmm.
like internal health thing where it's like, okay, if you're just going through the motions, maybe you're playing too much. Maybe, you're having to learn, or maybe you've lost sight of like what the goal is, or what, maybe you've lost your first love, like it talks about in Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
You've lost your first love, and it's just kind of become, you just play to play.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is like, I think in if we're healthy as artists and stuff, and we all go through seasons of unhealth, so I don't want to freak somebody out if they're like, I've been in places where, I didn't want to do anything because I was just so worn out. But I think there is that desire, almost like to just breathe, it's like just to, be able to sit with, for me, an acoustic sometimes and just sing words that aren't going to be a song any day soon. It's just literally my feelings, like what I feel.
Yeah.
And I go, I feel like I go through all the books of the Psalms in like one sitting because I'm mad and I'm happy and I'm crying and I'm excited. And 5 minutes are done and I'm done with the songs. But it's like, I think, I think it's in us to want to continue to grow, to want to get better, to want to explore like how to get better at things, which I think, if not, and I don't know, I haven't learned this side of it yet, I'm still trying to figure it out, but if not, it's almost like you don't have to force it, it's there, it's just how do you cultivate it, how do you give room for it, and I think you do find that, because I think the problem with comparison is you can try to be like, oh, well, this drummer does this and that's awesome and you need to do that as the drummer at this church. Mm-hmm. When in reality, it's like that drummer might have a completely different style that will like revolutionize, your church and what God wants to do through it. But you're now telling him to conform to this, which isn't all bad. Sometimes it's good to learn from people. But it's just that opening and cultivating to say, okay, God, what are you doing here? Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm processing, I'm talking about. Maybe that's it. It's, God, what are you doing here sorry, Ben's mic. What are you doing here? And help me to help with that. You know,
what you're talking about is what it sounds like you're talking about is inspiration. Like how do I inspire the team? And I think that's your passion.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna feed off your passion and then put it in their nourishment. Like, you know, they're gonna feed off your passion and then put it into, for you it's drums. Like if you're passionate about what you do and you're leading, then I want to be passionate about drums because that's the thing I can do. But I don't think that volunteers will not be healthy if they have more passion than their leader. So and I think that unconsciously you have been leading people with passion, like what you're talking about with taking your guitar off the hook at home is just innate in you. You're passionate about this, which means folks want to follow you, and then they want to be passionate about their thing. And you're creating those environments where they are free to be passionate with their gift in their field. And then to talk about your desire to grow. I know we're just hitting the 1 o'clock or 1 hour. To talk about your desire to grow, it, like, honestly, I think that to keep our heart in check and to keep our motivations clean, ask yourself, would I do it if there wasn't a congregation there?
Right.
What is it about a congregation that is needed to provide this moment?
Right.
Yeah.
And then all of the other stuff kind of fits in. And if you would do it without a congregation, then I think that's the stuff that we need to also focus on.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Whew, that's a lot. You got anything else? You want to say anything?
Clear eyes.
It's dark in this room.
Oh my gosh.
There's all kinds of fun stuff.
Here, there you go. We'll turn the light on here.
No, it's way too much now. Like, someone just came to wake me up.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's hilarious.
Give me 5 more minutes.
Thank you guys so much. Seriously, this has been great. I will. Well, actually, with all of the podcasts, I go back and listen to because I miss a lot sitting in the room. But I definitely have to go listen to this one again because there's just a lot of things that I'm like, I need to think about this more later. So that was awesome. Thank you guys. Thanks for being here, guys, and taking time out of your day. And for those listening, thanks for being a part and listening. Hopefully you learned or got you thinking about something, and take it to just the groups you're with and the musicians you're with, because once again we hope to just have conversations, and as you can see, we don't have it all figured out if you've made it this long, but just to be able to talk about it. And because I think and I was thinking about this the last couple of weeks, there is so much new technology, new things that we have available to us in the church world, and I think it's actually amazing. Like, it's so cool that we have it. But I think what we have to do is talk like this to say, okay, how do we go about these things? Like, you know, what's the healthy way? What's the God-honoring way? And to be able to say, I don't know, like, but let's figure it out. So that's kind of, I think, the cool place we're at as the church in the world right now, in America especially. So anyways, thanks guys for joining us. Thank you guys, Cory and Chad, for being here. And we will see you guys next month. Have a good one.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you manning the helm and being a part of that conversation. You did so good.
I'm sweating so hard, breathing so heavily.
You're a great facilitator of conversations between amazing minds.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. It's just cool to, learn from everybody we get to interview. It's just so awesome. There's so much wisdom that comes in and just so much knowledge. And so it's a lot of fun just being able to hear their hearts and their minds on, what the stuff they've learned throughout life. It's pretty awesome. So
just want to say huge thanks again to Cory and to Chad for taking the time to talk to us and expressing their hearts and their minds and in this topic. And thanks for coming in, guys. Great, awesome people. So, hey, I just want to tell you guys how much we appreciate you listening and how much it means to us to know that members of our worship ministry are kind of learning about the hearts of our worship and what we are about. And this is a great platform for doing this. And as Luke mentioned earlier, share it with people it'd be fantastic. And before we go, just want to remind you of this, Luke.
If you have an accept or decline on your planning center, please do either. There's nothing more anxious and stress-ridden than a question mark next to your name. And so, as always, we love you guys and love that you are available and willing to serve. And so, just so you know, and this is really why. It's not because it makes our lives easier. It really is, if you can't be there, there's nothing worse, and I think everybody can relate to this, than getting a call on a Thursday or Friday saying, hey, we have a gap. Can you fill in this weekend? And putting another volunteer in that position, which happens. There's emergencies and stuff like that, but we try to do our best to not do that to people. So it really just helps you guys out as volunteers, which we want to do our best to serve you guys in that way. So there is a question mark. Please, just as soon as you know, or if you don't know and there's something might happen, just communicate that and we can work with you on that. So, but we love you guys. We're so grateful for you. And I think that's it. Ben, take us out.
Take your church to the throne. Later, guys.
Thanks for listening to the GC Collaborative Podcast. If you have any questions or would like more information, check us out at visitgracechurch.com.